Welcome friends to my channel with another video. As long as you enjoy this videos, please make sure to hit subscribe button. TIFU by using a ghostwriter as a therapist. Okay, so basically I'm a ball of stress. Even though school just started a few weeks ago, I already feel ground down and stressed out. I've been really busy working, planning my wedding, and trying to graduate in the spring. I moved back to my parents' house to save money last year. After living on my own, it's depressing to be back here even though my family really isn't that bad, and they even pay for some of my tuition. And I've been trying but can't even focus on my school stuff. I've really been struggling with one class in particular that I need so I can graduate with my double psych/sociology major. Let's call it family sociology. I like the professor even though she's really tough, but for some reason I've just been having a lot of trouble retaining the concepts and applying them. I've spent the past 2 weeks irrationally dreading the first major assignment, which was a 3-page essay about our own families and applying the concepts of the class to them. Meanwhile, I literally only went home to sleep because I was so busy with work, finalizing the details for the venue for the wedding, seeing my fiancé, and school. I spent more time worrying about the essay than actually writing it, and suddenly it was due the next day and I had literally nothing. To make matters worse, I had a bad day that day. We had to go look at wedding venues during the day, and my mom was annoying as fuck as usual. The kitchen was a total mess because my dad never fucking cleans anything, and I feel like my sister is just trying to constantly start drama with my bridesmaids. Work was stressful and I barely got a lunch break. That night the clock was ticking and I just couldn't get any thoughts together to write. So, I did something I'm not totally proud of and that I've never done before. I paid a ghostwriter from a website to write an essay for the class. I gave them the instructions. They messaged me on the site and said that they needed some details about my family to write it. They said to give them as much info as I was comfortable with. I did a lot of venting, maybe more venting than giving guidance. I told them that my dad is a passive spineless jackass who still manages to be a misogynist. I told them that my sister had a personality disorder and was probably an addict. I told them my mother is a toxic narcissist determined to ruin my wedding. Finally the writer was like, "Wow, that sounds really tough, I can take it from here." And then I felt a lot better and went to bed. Obviously, the site has stuff about how you're only supposed to use the paper as a guide, and I was thinking, okay, I'll just have them write it, seeing an example would help a lot, and then I'll kind of rewrite it to make it sound like my own essay. But by the next morning my sister was already stirring up shit, and my laptop was dead, and I was running late for work. I borrowed my sister's laptop and just turned in the document as I got it from the ghostwriter. Not a good idea obviously. I didn't even check if it had errors in it or if it really followed the guidelines. I did not even read it, but fuck it. At that point it was either a shortcut or just nothing at all. I won't lie and say it ate at me. I felt a bit bad, but I made a big effort to study more on my lunch breaks, and some of the content started to make more sense. Fast forward to today, my friend texts me before I had a chance to look at Blackboard, and she tells me our professor posted our grades, and also a big warning about plagiarism. I'm thinking, fuck me. I have fucked up big time, and now I'm going to get kicked out or at least an F. My heart was pounding as I logged into Blackboard, and there it was. An A. The professor wrote a note saying she was concerned about my family issues, and she gave me the number for campus counseling. But she also praised the essay for a lot of other stuff. I wondered why my professor would be so concerned about my family, so I finally read the paper. It turns out the writer basically wrote down what I had told them verbatim, and then added a lot of structure and concepts from the class, FML. But I also got an A and I felt like I was doing better with the class concepts. So, basically a victory. Time for ice cream to celebrate, I thought. Oh right, so the fuck up. I went downstairs to get the ice cream. My sister and parents were sitting at the kitchen table together talking, but they fell silent as soon as I entered the room. "So, you/upvoter 1530, you think I'm a misogynist?" my dad said. I froze. "And I'm a toxic narcissist?" my mother asked. Cue my parents tearing into me and screaming at me for hours. And then they kicked me out. TLDR, my parents kicked me out because I paid someone to write my essay. I vented to that person about my family like it was therapy. The writer worked everything I said into the essay. I got an A, and then my sister found it on her laptop and showed it to our parents, and now they think I just used their tuition money to talk shit about them. TIFU. Out of everything I can recommend, it's maybe taking a step back and considering whether or not now is the right time to have a wedding, and furthermore seeing an actual therapist. Weddings are stressful, even when you're not working and doing school. You have a lot on your plate right now. Taking the time to focus on yourself and your mental health is really important. Sounds like turning in the verbatim ghost-written paper is only a foo in the sense that OP got away with plagiarism and felt bad about it. The real foo was making sure the paper was no longer on the sister's computer. Then again, this does sound like a double-edged foo. On one hand, she alienated herself from her family. On the other hand, she alienated herself from her family, and if half of what she said about her family is true, that's probably for the best. The real fuck-ups are behind the scenes. OP's getting married while graduating. OP's getting married at graduation age. OP bad-mouths her family when they let her stay at home and use their laptops, and she also says, "My family really isn't that bad, and they even pay for some of my tuition." OP doesn't prep for a 3-page essay and then pays someone $100 to write it for her. The real foo is that OP behaves like an entitled horror story. Yes, a professor can always decide to ignore something. So if the student seems otherwise honest, and clearly made a mistake, was panicked, etc., a professor could overlook something. In those cases, I at least still talk to them about it but might not penalize them. The problem with determining how much coincidence is acceptable is that people tend to assume that coincidences are more common than they are. For example, I have submitted entire sentences that were clearly copied verbatim to our student conduct office for evaluation, and they have told me it was just coincidence because lots of people write similar things about a novel. That's not actually true at all. Contrary to what most people think, most sentences are completely original sentences. If I Google something and there's only a single result and it is a paper on the same novel with a very similar argument, and my student uses an exact sentence from that, it is without question plagiarized. There is simply no way they could come up with an entire identical sentence. As an example, I always give the deck of cards odds. There are only 52 cards in a deck, vastly less than there are words in the English language, yet a randomly shuffled deck most likely has never been shuffled in the exact same order before and probably never will be again because there are so many possibilities. So in other words, coincidences aren't nearly as likely as students think they are. In fact, they are virtually impossible if you're talking about any sentence of more than 10 or so words that is entirely verbatim. It's pretty much always intentional plagiarism. That said, as people know, software like Turnitin will flag at least a couple % on everybody's paper. That is because it doesn't always recognize citations. Professors can see exactly what it flagged and why and would never consider anything that is clearly cited with quotation marks and a source to be plagiarism, so students don't need to worry about getting a couple % on a paper. Even 10% is fairly normal for a paper with a lot of quotations. This story has two sides, and you don't have a clear head. Insulting people who care and pay for you is a bad idea. Other people's character flaws seem like monsters when you're stressed enough. Hopefully the dust will clear up. This is not worth wrecking a family over. It is not about being right. Not if the price is this high. I used to ghostwrite, because of stuff like this, except I would be happy if it was just familial problems. People would vent to me over fetishes, desires, sexual and not, dreams, paranoias, anything and everything, and it was terrible. They would always try to make it personal and bring me into it somehow as if I wanted to get involved in their nonsense. Ghostwriters aren't paid enough to deal with this stuff, so I quit and hope anyone else ghostwriting has the best of luck. Never let your siblings have anything of any emotional importance or that is about them/your family. I left my phone open on a chair 2 years ago, and had just vented about my shitty family to my boyfriend. My sister stole my phone and read everything to my parents. My relationship to everyone got destroyed for a while. Don't trust your siblings. Unless you guys have a good relationship, of course, but if your family is anything like mine, don't do that, it'll only bring shit. Well, OP, I'm not going to give you props for using a ghostwriter, but you were resourceful, I'll give you that. And your writer seemed really empathetic and understood the assignment. You got this one pass on evading consequences, be better prepared in the future. That being said, your family doesn't like the truth. Maybe no one understood how toxic they really are, or no one cared to tell them. They found out by looking at your paper. On the bright side, they didn't see that it was a ghost-written paper, otherwise they could have really imploded your life. Them getting cranky over their accurate characterization and kicking you out is for the best. OP, you were under even more stressed living with the three of them. Now hopefully, you'll get some peace so you can properly focus on the other aspects of your busy life. Also, take your professor's benevolent suggestion to heart and seek out counseling. And can I make a suggestion? Elope. No venues to worry about, narcissistic mothers or drama queen sisters harassing your bridesmaids. Genuinely curious, people who think the sister/family is 100% to blame and OP in no way fucked up. If your sibling left a document on your laptop accusing you of having a personality disorder and being an addict, in addition to a lot of other spiteful things about your parents, how would you react? If I agree with how the situation was handled, but I might have done the same in the sister's shoes. Shown it to my parents. They might have sat down and had a heart-to-heart instead of resorting to kicking OP out, so there is possibly some validity to what they're saying. However, victims of narcissistic abuse, while not narcissistic themselves, sometimes take on the traits of a narc parent as a form of trauma. The complete lack of introspection and denial of wrongdoing could be a sign of this. Although as I reread that last sentence it sounds more straight-up narcissism. I'm no professional, however, just a victim of multiple narcs. Who's dating a victim of a narc parent that displays narcissistic traits due to the abuse? That doesn't qualify me to analyze or diagnose anyone I'm aware.